Hello and welcome to the Bad Bookers Wrestling Podcast review of NXT from the 16th of January. My name is Matt. Sorry about the reflection in the glasses. It is the way it is at the moment. I need to have notes in front of me, and unfortunately that's just going to be a little bit distracting. So we're doing a review of the 16th of January's NXT. So the NXT from last night. At this point might be the night before by the time we get the podcast get this out. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to quickly run through what happened. So we started off with the Street Profits versus the Metro Brothers. I'm not a big fan of the Street Profits. I think their promo, was it last week or the week before, was awful. I don't like the gimmick, and yeah, I wasn't really impressed with this at all. It was an okay match, and then obviously the Street Profits won. That wasn't really the main part of this. The main reason this was here so that we could get the Forgotten Sons to run in, who's another tag team I'm not really fussed about. NXT is probably my favourite WWE brand, but they're really struggling for tag teams at the moment. And the Forgotten Sons, again, nobody really cares. I mean, the crowd said it all when they were chanting, "We forgot you." They came in, they rushed in, they sort of knocked down and knocked about the guys from the Street Profits. I assume that means there's going to be a feud, whether it's going into TakeOver, whether it's going past that, and you're looking at sort of NXT TV stuff. I hope it's NXT TV stuff because it was just a little bit meh, but you know, it is what it is for the start of a feud. We'll see if this turns into something better. Maybe they'll put on a decent wrestling show and like a decent wrestling match, and then I'll start to care about it a bit more. But yeah, for what it was, I wasn't that fussed. We then had a Bianca Belair promo. So obviously Bianca Belair is number one contender. She came out, she cut a promo about herself. She got interrupted by Shayna Baszler and the four horsewomen. So she was cutting a promo saying how ace she was and how Nikki, like obviously she beat Nikki Cross last week and she was bigging herself up, and then Baszler came out with the other two from the four horsewomen to, you know, sort of take her down a peg. She said that she was overrated, and she threatened to rip her arm off, which, you know, Baszler came out of this looking strong. Belair came out of this probably looking fairly strong as well. We'll see sort of what happens as Baszler was kind of leaving. We had so as Baszler was leaving with Menduk and Shafir, she turned round as if she was going to say something else to Belair, and Belair slapped her in the face, and then she sort of dispatched of Duke and Shafir, who tried to get back in the ring. I think it was both of them. I mean, overall it was a good segment. It's kind of continuing on the build to take over Phoenix, I believe, is the next one. The Rumble weekend takeover, anyway. It was a sort of a good sort of feud continuer, without being anything to us. We then had Dominic Dijakovic versus Adrian Joude, Jobber. We had another sort of Dijakovic video package, I think before the match, and then he comes in, and there was sort of no real offense. There was a couple of bits where Joude got a bit of offense in, but nothing major. I don't like Dijakovic shouting "Feast your eyes" whilst he's got the fella on his head before he does his finisher. Not a fan. I think they want to push this fella. I don't think he'll get pushed that far because I don't think he'll get over with the crowd. I don't think his gimmick is good enough, and he just seems like an average wrestler at best. I was really impressed the first time, but watching that wasn't very good. It wasn't sort of my thing. We then had Johnny Gargano versus Humberto Carrillo. I believe Carrillo is on his way to 205 Live. Gargano comes in and is your typical over-cocky heel, leading to Carrillo getting sort of getting on top in the match. that was then soon sort of squashed by the slingshot spear that Gargano does, where he threw the middle rope. But that wasn't the end of it. Carrillo again battled back. There was a few sort of decent spots, but in the end, Johnny Gargano obviously won. It was a better version of a squash match rather than just having somebody just literally 3-minute squash match. It showed that both Gargano and Carrillo can wrestle. Made Gargano look strong, because you could see that the only reason Carrillo was getting any offence in was because Gargano was being cocky. As soon as Gargano then decided to switch on the sort of his game, he was straight in there and won the match fairly comfortably. And then after the match, Gargano dared Ricochet to turn up next week. Obviously they've got their, I don't know whether it's confirmed yet, but they've got I assume they've got a number one contenders match against a North American title match at the Takeover. So I assume next week they'll confirm that if they haven't already. Like I say, that was a really good match between the two. Showed them off really well, and I think Carrillo will probably do well on 205 Live. Obviously Gargano is sort of one of the better wrestlers on NXT, so it's good to just see him continuing on. I assume I don't think he'll take the title off Ricochet. I think there might be a shady finish in that match, but we'll wait and see. And it's a match that I definitely want to see. It's two fantastic wrestlers, and that'll be a brilliant match. I assume there'll be some form of kick-off in a promo next week, and then we'll get the match at Takeover. And then we've moved on. So the final bit was the main event. So we had Kassius Ohno versus Keith Lee. It was about 12 to 15 minutes match in the main event. Early on, Keith Lee was on top. Then Kassius Ohno hit him with a few sort of punches and kicks and brought him down. There was probably a 3 or 4 minute spell of the match where they were doing some rest holds in the middle of the ring. And then even when they got back to their feet, Keith Lee looked like he was really struggling. I don't know whether he's unfit or whether he took a knock to the head and didn't really know where he was. He was really slow to do a couple of runs where we've seen him sort of be really impressive in the past. Like he was fine early on. He did his leapfrog and then dropped down like a cruiserweight would do. Early on he was fine at it, and then towards the end of the match he picked back up again. So I don't know whether it was just like an injury, maybe he got winded or something, but he did look like something was up with him. I was a little bit worried, but he managed to get back into the match to the point where he was probably on top, and then Kassius Ohno shoved him away from him into the referee. The referee went down. Kassius Ohno then low blowed Keith Lee, AJ Styles style, then hit him with his spinning elbow or whatever it's called. I can't remember what his finish is called. Got a 1, 2, 3, and then was about to or started attacking Keith Lee again whilst he was on the floor, and we had Matt Riddle come out looking dapper as ever in a shirt, basically a suit, but with flip flops on, as he does, coming out to save his friend, and Ohno then runs away, disappears to close the show out. Overall, it was a fairly good NXT. There was, it's your standard thing where there's a match that's trying to build a feud at the start of the show, then a couple of squash matches to try and get people over, done in the right way, not in the sort of main roster way that we've come to know from WWE, and then they finished off with a good match between Kassius Ohno and Keith Lee. I said on the podcast this week, I believe Kassius Ohno is probably the best wrestler I've ever seen. The more I see of him, he can do everything. He's a good heel. He's a good face. He can carry people through matches. He's just all round. He's got the striking ability. He can do actual wrestling moves. He does the sort of the on the floor ring work, as well as sort of like your suplexes and everything. Just an incredible man, and I for those of you that don't listen to the podcast, I only came to wrestling in the last sort of 18 months after a long time away from it from when I was watching it as a kid, and I need to go and find out more about Kassius Ohno because he's absolutely incredible. But yeah, like I say, good NXT, a decent rating. I assume next week will be a more build to Takeover. We'll probably have confirmation of what all 5 matches are going to be, and we'll get a decent sort of NXT. Usually the go home one is usually the best. We then get usually a poor one after Takeover with the dark matches. Sometimes it's all right, but I'm not too fussed about watching the ones with the dark matches on. I'll watch it, but whether I do a review, I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll see how things goes. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure that if you enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe. Come back for Jack. He's doing obviously he does the main roster. I think he's doing a 205 Live one, but I'm not sure of the reviews. Smoothman's going to start doing some stuff as well. He was saying on the podcast this week something about polls, I don't know, so watch out for that. And hopefully we should be getting a bit more content out on the YouTube for you to sort of come along and enjoy. And thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.